So let me introduce the session today. This is the launch, 2024 launch of CxXchange Success Hour. Previously, we were called CS Office Hours. So this reflects then all of the things that we're doing in our Slack community, the book clubs, the collaboration groups, and all of those things that really we've come together as a community to do. So today's session is a really fun one around power networking and the Arise method. And this is something you can use not just as a job searcher, but also in your CS leader and CSM role. And I'm so excited to have met and started to collaborate with Rachel Rozen, who's here today. So I want to come off share so we can see Rachel. Rachel, please say hi and introduce yourself so people can get to know and love you the way that I have come to know and love you.
Thanks so much, Jan. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm excited to be here today and get to share some of my expertise with all of you. I am a former Chief Customer Officer and spent a lot of time in the CX world and decided to leave that a couple of years ago while I was on my search for my next role. I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I took a learning sabbatical to try to figure that out, took a bunch of courses, and then I really dove into networking. I thought I wanted to go into a chief of staff role and see leadership from a different vantage point to then be a COO, because I'm very operational focused. And as much as I love working with customers, it's very energy draining for me. And I'm great at it, but it takes up a lot of my energy. And I just didn't want to keep doing that anymore. And so I started networking, and I ended up meeting 50 different chiefs of staff from Fortune 500 companies to nonprofits and everything in between. And that was the beginning of my networking journey, because my network was not very wide and not very deep. Prior to that, I had only met and knew people that I had worked with, but I didn't invest in communities or really anything outside of my clients or the people that I worked with day to day. So from May of last year, or we're in 2024, never mind, from May of 2022 to May of 2023, I ended up meeting 300 people in one-on-one conversations. And then with that process, I realized there was a process to networking, and everybody's told, hey, go network. But what does that truly mean? And so I took all of the processes that I did and the strategies that I used to network to those 300 people. Plus, I also grew my LinkedIn following from 1,000 people to 3,000 people organically during this time, which may not seem like a lot, but I've been doing a lot of different strategies because it's not all about being on LinkedIn. It's also about being in person, having connections, and what does that look like? And that got me to build my company called Connection Catalyst, where I help professionals like all of you, whether in your job search, looking for a board seat or more clients, or just helping people in general with those networking skills, and to build that skill set to make it a habit so you can do that each and every day, not just when you're in that job search. And so today we're going to be talking about when you're doing cold connections, one of the frameworks that I use that can really help you. And not just, again, from the job search perspective, like Jen said, we're also going to talk about how you can use that with other customers that you have. Maybe it's a change of a champion or a new leader coming in that you need to support. So we'll talk a little bit more about that.
All right, so let's dig in. And here goes. So just initially then, why don't you sort of, you know that I'm going to jump in anyway, but why don't you go ahead and get started with talking about the difference between the warm network and a cold network?
So I like to talk about networking in two different circles that you have. You have your warm network and your cold network. Your warm network is someone that you have an affinity to. What do I mean by affinity? An affinity is anything that you have some sort of a small connection to. So for example, being here is an affinity group. You may not know every single person, but you have that connection because you're in this community together. The university that you went to, that's your alumni association, that's an affinity. Whether it's the one that you went to, a sibling went to, your partner went to, that's still a connection in some way. Your neighbors can be a connection, family and friends, other WhatsApp or Slack groups or industry groups that you're a part of, really anything that you participate in. It could be as simple as if you are let's just say, a sports fan and you're in a fantasy football league, that could be an affinity group to you as well.
Or
Whereas a cold,
if you're a fan of the Syracuse basketball team, right?
yes, exactly. So I'm a huge Syracuse Orange basketball fan, which is playing in an hour. So I'm really excited to do this and then watch my game to finish my night. And it's also music groups. I've talked about this before, and many of you may be on Facebook groups as well. Somebody that I had talked to about this was a huge Dave Matthews Band fan, and they were in a Dave Matthews Band Facebook group, and they talk with these people all the time, but nobody in that group knew that they are looking for a job. So those are types of places where you want to let people know what you do and what you're looking for, where you might be able to get help as well. And then your cold network is specifically people that you haven't met yet, but they're connected to you and may not be connected to you at all. They may be the second or third degree connections, or you're meeting them through some other format. So LinkedIn is a place where you have cold connections. A first time a recruiter reaches out, it's a cold connection. Conferences that you're attending. Now, there might be people that you want to meet there that you've met prior, but you're meeting a lot of new people for the first time. The same thing if you're attending a webinar, you may not know anybody, and those are the first time that you're meeting them. So again, warm networks are people that you have some sort of a connection to, and cold is you don't have any connection to yet. So what we're going to talk about here is a framework that I created called Arise. And this is for you to be able to use when you're doing cold outreach. Now you can use this for warm outreach as well, but the main focus here is how should you be formatting that direct message or that email? So the first thing to think about is alignment. You should have some sort of a common ground or establishing why you're reaching out to that person. People forget that right away. They just want, I need, but where is that common ground? Why are you connected? The relevance, which kind of goes with the alignment. Why do you want to connect with them? You want to be concise and specific, and why should it matter to them? And then interest. What are you interested in getting from them? Are you want to learn something new? You are providing them information that they may not have. You're asking open-ended questions to encourage their insights. Maybe you heard them on a podcast and you wanted to encourage more conversation around something that they said, or you attended a webinar like this and you said, hey, Rachel, I really liked what you talked about X. I want to learn more about this. That would be also interest piece. And then sincerity. Be authentic and sincere. Don't be excessively flattering. That is a mood killer for everyone. Nobody wants to be told, yes, people love to be, given some credibility and told that they've done really well, but don't overdo it. Truly just be yourself. And the last thing is ease. Make it easy for them to say yes. And normally people talk about have a call to action. Well, I picked up this terminology called call to connection instead of call to action. Call to connection is how do you want to connect with that person next? Not what is the action that they need to take, but how is that communication going to further from here? And really from a CX perspective, I bring a lot of that into what I do every day. And that's a huge piece of it is how can you make it easy for them? There shouldn't be jumping over hoops to do that. So that's the Arise framework.
All
And the
right.
difference, go ahead. If you got it.
Yeah. So we should probably pick it up because we want to get started in like less than 5 minutes. So yeah.
So when do we do the cold outreach? You could be doing it from a sales.
Oh, right. So then that's why I put this slide in. Actually, this is a cue for me.
Yeah.
So mostly what Rachel was talking about is the type of things you might do if you were doing a job search, right? But then if you think about it, when you're in a role, these kinds of things happen all the time. You're constantly having to establish some sort of relationship with someone that you don't know, you haven't met, you don't know them from boo, right? And so You think about it. You do this when there's a sales to CS handoff and you're meeting a new customer. You do this when you're trying to reach out to a dormant account and you haven't ever connected with them, right? You're also doing a cold connection when your champion changes, right? That's a cold connection. When there are acquisitions, when the company that you're working with gets acquired, there's mergers and acquisitions, right? Or, are there other examples that anyone can think of, whether you want to come off mute or put in the chat? But, like these things, actually, we do cold connections all the time. And are we preparing ourselves for these cold connections, right? That's really what this can do, whether you're doing it for job search, general networking out and about, but even in your role every day. Yep, when you're trying to learn about a new career area, new user outreach, all of those things. All
Also,
right.
too, when you start a
Mhm.
new job
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to learn about the company and the culture, and you're just talking to your fellow teammates, when you're talking to the new CSMs, talking to the managers, talking to the cross-functional teams, those are all people you don't know, but you need to learn about them and what they're doing with their jobs so that you can do your job better.
And if you've done any sort of research on them ahead of time, then you can already sort of pick up on ways to connect with them, right? And you can say, oh, hey, what about them? Orange, what do you call the orange? What are they?
The orange men.
The orange men. What about those orange men? See, I don't know anything about it. It would not necessarily be authentic, but it would be sincere if I tried to learn about the orange men in order to have a conversation with Rachel, right?
Another quick plug on the research side, being in the age of AI, it's made it extremely easy to do research using Bard, ChatGPT, Perplexity, even Notion. You can easily create kind of user personas. I come from a platform that literally anyone can use it. So I'm using so many different types of roles, and I had to become a subject matter expert in what are the challenges, what are the objectives, what are the key traits that each role has. Because I'm talking to an HR person one moment, then I'm talking to a senior cloud engineer the next, and that was obviously very different. But using AI tools, you're able to build out and do research real quick to figure out, what matters most to you, and then you're coming in educated with a compelling reason to meet and add value.
Love that, Mike. Exactly it. Exactly it. So what we're going to do in these breakout rooms is we've given a scenario to everyone. And there's a link in the notes here to Sarah Franklin. But the idea is you're a director of customer success with a strong background in HR tech. You've identified Sarah Franklin as having influence in the field. And so then as a group, you can decide if you're either going to compose a LinkedIn DM to Sarah about a role that you're interested in, or you can decide that Sarah is a disengaged customer. But how would you create a DM to engage with Sarah? And so we're going to have you take a look at what you can learn about Sarah and put into then a DM. And we have some additional resources here in the slides, so be sure to download these slides. Oh yeah, we forgot to mention all of these other things, huh?
It's all there for you to take
Yeah.
a look at.
Yeah.
And then the other thing,
we wanted to show the DM sample and the improved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's two samples here. These are okay DMs, and then the next one are much better examples of using the RISE framework for DMs, and these are ones that I've used or others have used as well. So it's just an idea. Just one thing to think about. She just became the new CEO of the company that she's at, so don't use that as part of your DM. You have to come up with something else because that's too new. But
well, and also because everyone's using that, you want to stand out a little bit, right? So, but so here are some examples. Enjoyed your post on whatever, boysenberries. Your insights were spot on. Would love to connect and share thoughts. Versus, I was impressed by your post today on boysenberries. Your insights on boysenberries are really purple and blue and all of the red. I don't know. Anyway, I'm looking forward to following more of your content, right? Anyway, so just some other examples. Kimberly.
Yeah, thanks for these tips. I just wanted to kind of clarify because I think I get where you guys are going, but nowadays with LinkedIn, this type of DM sample you're giving, and just in case anyone else is maybe not clear, I mean, I'm assuming this is what you would put in the personalized connection request, and then the next part of the loop, which honestly I tend to have trouble with, is if the person, just kind of blindly accepts my connection request and then just it doesn't go anywhere and you have to kind of follow up to send more of a message. But I just wanted to clarify, like, I don't know if LinkedIn DM, sometimes that can be unclear. I assume you mean it's like, you're sending a personalized request to the person so that you connect and then exchange more messages.
That's correct. Yeah. So that first time connecting with them, these can also potentially be used or whittled down to thought leadership as well on the specific post if you wanted to do that. But the purpose is, how can you craft a short message that is engaging? And you can use the same framework, to your point, Kimberly, about, okay, I've sent this message, what can I do next? But if you're using this format, you're more engaging right from the get-go. And so people are more likely to continue to conversate with you. So hopefully that was helpful.
That makes sense. Any other questions as we're about to go to breakout rooms? So before we went out to the breakout groups, I already started hearing about ways you can use AI and things like that. What kinds of things, just on the research side, what kinds of things
Yeah,
came
maybe
up?
we need a CxXchange theme song to play in the background in moments like these.
Oh, yeah? Well, I don't know. I think that already people have been contributing, but what were people doing for the research? Where did you start?
Her profile.
Okay.
LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn, okay.
Where did you look at her profile? What were the areas of her profile that you looked at?
The first thing I looked at was whether I or not we had common connections already.
Okay.
I always look at activity, like, what have they been posting, commenting, how long ago were they posting or commenting, that kind of stuff. How many followers do they have? How active do they seem?
At the about section.
Yeah.
I like the about section because people sometimes talk about things that they're interested in there, and you could take words from that and start connecting into your own background and have common interests.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I
That's
like to
something
look
that a
at
lot of
is
people don't think about going to, is the about section. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, career profile trajectory, the role trajectory. So it just shows the journey.
Mhm. What else? Somebody else was speaking up, but I wasn't sure who that was, the voice.
I think, yeah.
Was it Kai? Oh, wait. Sorry, Mike?
I just talk too much. If someone else is talking, go for it.
Wait, who was speaking up? Was it Kai? Were you speaking earlier?
yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I was
okay.
sorry.
Uh-huh.
I was just gonna say that I like to look at, I noticed on her profile, she has the creator mode on. So you can see the topics that she talks about, and those are ones that like you specifically pick when you set that up on your profile. So those are topics that's important to her.
Cool. Good
Absolutely.
point. Mike, what were you going to say?
I'm gonna say when I'm doing the research, obviously the latest posts are important, but it's really easy just to go to Google and then type in the name and then go into and then company and then go into news and be able to see all the different editorials on it. And then all those editorials have hyperlinks to the resources that they're getting it from, which they're usually pulling from another media source, such as podcasts, YouTube interviews, etc. And you're able just to really figure out what this person is and the opinions about them and make it relevant to them. Another pro tip too is to go, I use Spotify, but go to Spotify, type in their name, and then you can just see whatever, that way you can find all the podcasts associated with them to make it really relevant to them.
Oh, those are good points. Anything
What
else?
about
Yeah.
what about going to like if they got a recommendation from somebody, because that could
Mm.
obviously provide some insight into the credibility or maybe the likeness of them that maybe would help provide some insight into who they are, and then maybe that connection to them as well.
Oh, great. Yeah, recommendations.
There's a tool called Crystal Knows that does a DISC assessment on people that you're reaching out to.
Really? Wait, what is this called? How do you spell that?
Crystal, like CRYSTAL, knows as in it knows about you. And yeah, it pulls it from LinkedIn and a few other sources, and it suggests like if they're someone who just wants to get straight to the point, or they like to kind of like be more personable. So it can help you. It's really good for salespeople, particularly as well. Just understand how different types of people prefer to be reached out to and spoken to.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know about that.
And Crystal
And
knows,
so how do
yeah,
you do that?
you can add it as onto your
The Chrome extension.
Chrome extension. Yes.
Okay.
It can be a
Oh,
Chrome extension.
okay. All right. So you add it as a Chrome extension and then it'll analyze and it gives you that insight. Love that. Wow.
And
Because I didn't have a tool like that one back when I was in sales. I love this.
you can also do a bunch of assessments on yourself so that it kind of helps you understand the different different people that and how you might interact with them based on your own personality as well, I think.
Nice. For the people who started writing messages to Sarah, what was there a difference in terms of what sort of DM you would write if you were trying to connect with them, if like they were a dormant account versus if you were going for a job? Did you
So
try?
the other thing that we were
Yeah.
kind of joking about in our breakout room was if Sarah, is it Sarah or whoever the CEO of Lattice is, Susan, if she's gonna get like 1 million DMs from random people after tonight.
Nice.
And then we'll have to see who actually connected with her, who was successful in their cold outreach.
Cool. And why not, right? But what about that though? Like when you're doing the DM and kind of what your ultimate purpose is to connect with them, how did that feel in terms of the difference of what you're going to, write initially or?
I suppose it also depends if there's an active posting or of a covert posting for a role you're interested in. So if there's a sense of urgency, particularly with an executive, I would just, even if it's a cold note, I would just be straightforward with what my interest in connecting with her is, especially if it's someone that potentially would be reporting to her. I found response rates are much better, at least when you're direct, as opposed to, playing the long game, building a relationship, which is something I would still love to do. But if that post is just something I come across, then I'd like to dive into this now. And my guess is they would be interested in having that conversation if there's a mutual interest in that.
Right. And so definitely that was something that Mike Larson was saying earlier too about the persona, right? If you're reaching out
We
to a
also did an
CEO,
unofficial poll in our
right?
breakout room about video messaging. And the consensus in our breakout room was start with text and then maybe send a video message, maybe by a show of like thumbs up, thumbs down. How many of you would respond to a video message as the first message?
How would I respond?
Yeah.
Would
like,
you
yeah,
respond?
thumbs up if
It
yes.
all depends on how good that video message is.
So we've got it, and it depends. Interesting. Okay.
I'd probably accept the request and then procrastinate watching the video because I always end up like being like, oh, I don't have time, So at the very least, make sure if you have a video that it's got captions.
Nice.
I'd say it depends if they're selling a product or selling themselves. That would probably be the first filter that I would pay attention to. And I'd be more apt to look at someone's message sooner if it's a genuine note, hey, I'm exploring a new role or looking for personal feedback in my career or something of that nature.
Interesting.
So
cool.
just to add to you, Sean, there, one of the things that I've done is that, so I've usually
Kathy,
been probably.
Is that from before?
Wait, what? Sorry, Jay. Can you hear Justin?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was just saying is that usually what I've done actually is I send a blank DM, then I send
So I
kind of a nice.
know what
Wait, Jay, just a second.
I also. Oh,
Jay, I'm gonna mute you. Yeah, for a second. Yeah, thanks. Okay, good. Go ahead, Justin.
No problem.
Yeah.
And usually what I do is that I actually send a blank DM and then I send them, after they accept, I send them a nice little quick note, same in that same area where we, get straight to the point, asking them what you're interested in. And if it's about a job, then too, I do the next step further. I do it automatically if I was doing a sales sequence. as soon as I get that connect, I'm looking up their email. And then what I'm doing is saying that, hey, Jan, this is Justin Lang here. I'm currently searching out my next opportunity. I'm very interested in the account executive, which I applied for at, XYZ company. This is what I can bring to your team. And then I label 3 to 5 points of what my biggest outputs are of what I've done. So first, usually, quantitative data right away, then providing the things from there, then that would be typically on the resume. Make it your top 3 or 5 points. And I've actually gotten 100% reply rate doing it that way. And I've done that about 10 times to only people that I've been able to really go after. I treat it as a sales sequence.
Interesting.
So
Interesting. Rachel, is that part of kind of where you go after the Arise method in terms of talking about the sequence?
Yeah, so when you're looking for a job, you definitely want to go through like a sales sequence, kind of what Justin was saying. This specifically, like the way that it was originally built is, this is the first time I'm connecting with them, and this is the long game. Like, how do I want to connect with them? How do I want to continue that conversation? But there's lots of different ways to look at it, especially from a job search perspective. And if you are job searching, I do recommend doing a video at some point during that sequence. If you're not doing a video, at the bare minimum, do a voice message, because then people can start to hear you. When you're working with customers, what do they want to know? How do you talk to somebody else? How are you communicating? And that's a really great way to show them that, not just your writing skills.
Right. And we'll go to Kathy in one second, but Rachel, if you haven't put the link to the next session that you're doing, if you have an event you're doing, be sure to include that. And Kathy.
Yeah, I was wondering, a lot of times you'll see a job posting, you want to jump on it and apply and then talk to somebody at the company, and you don't really, because these things kind of close quickly. And even if you apply first and then reach out next, do you have the luxury of the long game you guys were referring to, or is there a way to just get somebody's attention in one and say the right things to get to talk to them?
Yeah. I have an opinion, but again, I talk too much, so I just want to give somebody else a different.
I'll let you talk in 1 second, Mike. I just want to separate. The long game of networking is eventually they might help me find a job, or they're going to be a connection that's going to be connected to somebody else that's going to be able to connect me into that company. That's what the long game is. When you're looking for a job, or you are connecting because there's an open role, that's a different strategy format. Mike, I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so for back in the day when the job market wasn't psychotic, it was always best to play a little bit of a longer game and get to know them and have them meet with them and then ask for a referral once they see that you're, with it, because that way it gets bumped up through the ATS. In this market, I'm applying immediately, and then I'm connecting, and then I'm saying something hopefully smart to them to make them realize or have a conversation. I say something along the lines of, Kathy, name's Mike Larson, just apply at your organization. Looks really great. I love what you guys are doing for X, Y, and Z. I just applied, and I'd love to put I'd like to lead my interviews with my best foot forward. In order to do that, I'd love to meet with you to learn what your current objectives, challenges, and strengths are at the organization. Do you have 15 minutes to connect next week or the week after? Something along those lines. And then when you meet with them, you can say, hey, I applied. I saw there's 348 other applicants. What's the best way to kind of get in front of a recruiter? And then they can push you forward, even though you've already applied.
And then who are you reaching out to in that situation? Like a hiring or
I connect with the hiring managers for sure, and I'll shoot over a Loom to a hiring manager. But I always start, for me personally, I work with individual contributors, people that are likely on the team that I'm applying for, as well as I try and identify top performing AEs, because it's still part of the go-to-market motion and they're customer facing, and they can help me also assess kind of what the challenges are for the org, what the features are, how they're driving value, et cetera.
Right.
Question on that though, but
go ahead.
So, but if I'm using the referral opportunity as a way to make that connection, if you apply first, does that impede their ability to still refer you and technically for them to get, let's say, referral money if that's an opportunity within the company?
It can, but not always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that it can, but not always. And usually they have a way, even if it's more of a manual effort. What will happen though is if they really want to refer you and get that bonus, they'll reach out to the recruiter that's in charge and make sure that they get their name associated to the opportunity, aka your application.
Okay, thank you.
And there was also some, I can't remember the name now, the person who was talking more in terms, Peter, you were talking about the sales process. I think too, it's also helpful to speak to what you can bring specifically, especially if you're talking to the hiring manager, because they'll often get so many people reaching out once there's a role available, that if there's a way that you can show not only what you bring to the table, but that you've already started to look at how it connects to them, because it's really important that the hiring manager understand that you're interested in their company and that role specifically, that you're not just doing spray and pray, even if of course you're doing spray and pray, right? So Rachel?
And another thing to keep in mind too is that if you can already know what their problems are and you can address that versus asking them what their problems are, you're one step ahead of other people that are applying. So that's why it's important to not just connect with the hiring manager, but who else in the company can you have a conversation with that you can learn about their culture? What are some of the issues that they have going on? It's not just about that direct connection. Most people get jobs through their secondary and third connections. But the purpose of everything that we did today is to just say, regardless if there's a role open today at this company, who are some companies that I might want to work with down the road? Who are people that I admire? Who are people that I want to be talking to that I can help them and they can help me? Because that's really what this is about from a networking perspective, is who do I have in my circle that I can start to entrust that's going to help me down the road.
Yep. Awesome. Any other things to mention before we head out? I should mention actually what we're doing next week. So we're going to have some really interesting sessions this month. Next week, because there's so much change that you're usually doing at the beginning of the year, we're going to be talking about how you execute change in your CS program. And then we'll, after that, we're going to be, and that's with Cynthia Silva with me, and then impactful customer journeys and delivering impactful customer outcomes. Then that'll be the next two sessions after that. That's with Percy. And then on the 30th of January, we're going to have, I saw some folks talking about Carly Agar over in the chat. She's going to be joining us on January 30th. So we've got a big month ahead. And then after that, we're going to be moving into what CS looks like in different industries. So we'll be gearing up for that. So we'll have a couple other sessions before we get into that. And then it'll be what CS looks like in different industries. So if you haven't joined the community, please go do that. We can continue the conversation there. And for anybody else who needs to head out, please do. But Kathy, I'll stay behind to check in on what question you have there.
Okay.
And thanks for staying late. You stayed 10 minutes after and really appreciate that. And I know, Rachel, you've got a date with the Orange Men, so I'll let you go off and see your game.
Thank you very much. It was great meeting everyone, and feel free to connect with me. Happy to help in any way that I can.
This is really great, Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Success Hour, formerly known as CS Office Hours. We regularly put out new content, so to be the first to know, like this episode, tap that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you soon.